All right, welcome back, everybody, to Off the Grid on the Record, the podcast where we bring you candid conversations with the change makers building a smarter, cleaner, and more resilient energy future. I'm your host, Yarek from Erin, Ontario, and today we're diving into a topic that's evolving quickly behind the scenes: how small businesses are quietly reshaping their role in the solar space. Our guest today is someone pushing boundaries in how communities access and interact with clean energy. David Jones is the CEO of Lumina Energy, a next generation energy as a service platform that's helping communities create virtual power plants, trade energy peer to peer, and even vote on local infrastructure projects, all throughout a beautifully decentralized system. In today's episode, we'll unpack how small business owners are shifting from just wanting solar panels to wanting control, flexibility, and return on investment. We'll also explore how Lumina's technology gives anyone, even those without rooftops, a way to plug into the clean energy economy. Thanks, David, for being here. How are you today, and where are you calling from?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Yarek. I'm calling in from Chicago.
Amazing. It's kind of warmer there, I'm assuming.
You know, it's so funny. I mean, because you guys are literally our neighbors to the north, we have very similar weather patterns. And last week, for instance, was I think around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This week, it's like 80 degrees, so we're getting a little summertime vibe. But yeah, this is what we signed up for living in the Midwest.
Exactly. No, I remember last week I still had my heat going, and today I turned my AC on. So it's
Yep,
such a
same.
weird, weird area to be in. But no, I'm excited to get into it. I just kind of want to jump in and with the big idea, like virtual power plants and peer-to-peer energy trading. But these aren't terms that, average business owner hears every day. So how do you explain what Lumina Energy does to someone who, has not looked into or stepped into energy tech?
Sure. So the way that we like to think about a virtual power plant is like a big tree. So we being the root and each leaf being like a client or a city or a branch being a city rather, and we're all kind of feeding energy. It's basically one big kind of symbiosis, if you will. But the more technical answer, a virtual power plant, in our respect, it enables us to remotely control, monitor, and share energy resources through technology that we've either invented or things that are kind of already out there, and that connects energy storage systems with energy generation systems.
Amazing. I mean, I think the next question naturally is, what kind of transformation are you seeing in how local energy is managed, now versus,
Yeah.
say 5 years ago?
You know, it's so crazy. I mean, as you already know, the economy and each market is completely different. They all require different things. They all have kind of different goals that they're striving for. So problems that we might face in Florida would be completely irrelevant to what's going on in Chicago. So because Florida deals with a lot of blackouts and natural disasters and stuff like that, they're looking for more of a resiliency factor as opposed to amping up what they're already doing for instance, paving the way for artificial intelligence or being able to just have a less strain on the grid from more people moving into their cities or municipalities or what have you. So, I mean, it really is just it's a case by case basis. And, that's kind of the fun in doing this. We actually invented an energy management system that allows us to keep tabs on each of the assets that we have in our portfolio. So it's really funny to go log in and just see what's happening in like California, and that they're dealing still with the aftermath of the big wildfire, and
Yes, of course.
versus what's happening with some of our clients located in the Caribbean, where well, I guess they're getting out of hurricane season now. But yeah, it's a big hodgepodge of stuff. So a virtual power plant allows us to create sort of a shapeless way of dealing with each of these problems individually with holistic technology.
That's amazing. And just so that, for myself and for the viewers also, it's the target market is commercial, but also residential.
Yeah, so we have three market segments actually. Uh,
Amazing.
Yeah, so our first market segment, we deal with municipalities, so we offer a number of different services there. Mostly what we do is to prevent things like load shedding, but we also provide spinning reserve. So spinning reserve being like backup for like battery backup, and we create what's called like a bumpless share of energy. So if they do have a blackout or something, they would automatically be rerouted to one of our systems. And for the typical consumer, you'll just see like their lights flicker. But we also do like PPA, so power purchase agreements for business owners. So that would be like our second tier. And because many business owners do use like a ton of energy for whatever it is they're doing, like manufacturing, that enables them to receive lower rates on their utility bill. And then lastly, with residential customers, we have like a buy-in program. So for instance, if they do or do not have solar panels or any sort of renewable energy generation, they can do what's called a community solar program. So that will allow them to become participants with us. If they do have solar panels on their roofs or what have you, they become partners with us. So they become a node for us in a virtual power plant network.
That's amazing. And is there a specific focus on any one of them, or is it just whichever one kind of comes to you?
Well, I guess the good thing and bad thing about a virtual power plant is it's all volume based. So we normally target municipalities because if you can get a sweeping yes, then that makes it worth everyone's while, and that gives us access to tens of thousands of customers immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say just kind of high level, like that's kind of our bread and butter, so to speak.
That's fantastic. Well, that's like kind of segues into my next question because we called this episode, the quiet shift in solar for a reason. And what we're seeing a change in is, small business owners and what they expect from clean energy. Like, what are they telling you? Is it about saving on power bills, or is it becoming something bigger? Is there a bigger vision?
Once again, this is a mixed bag because a lot of the customers that we're beginning to deal with now, and I'll talk about that momentarily. We're getting into the AI space. So many customers that we deal with are either saying, "Well, it's costing us just entirely too much money to operate, and we're not pulling in much of a margin," or you have just typical business owners that are saying, well, I have a manufacturing facility, and what's a way that we can reduce the amount of strain that we have and to at least get our utility bill down, 20-30% or more.
Mhm.
So those are some of the pluses to kind of partnering with us. But I guess in general, though, it really is mostly about just kind of saving money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As always.
Yeah.
Oh, I think trust is a big issue, especially in like the installer world. I mean, what are you seeing in terms of expectations around ownership? Because, like you mentioned, everyone's obviously wanting to cut costs and increase their profits as much as possible. But in terms of expectations of like ownership, transparency, control, even do people have that side of things once they get into a relationship with you?
Yeah, man, let me tell you. So I think trust has become a fleeting thing in the PV space because there's just a lot of like hucksters out there that are really they're just interested in making money, and they'll say whatever it needs to be said in order for them to get the sale. So there's a lot of reports of like deceptive practices that have come out, and it has damaged the credibility within the industry and most importantly within my firm.
Mhm.
Fortunately, we do operate at a very high level of ethics, so we've never had any sort of report, and I'm knock on wood, we never do. Um, but yeah, I think the trust factor has become kind of make or break in business decision making. So usually, what we'll do is have like a word of mouth, especially with business owners. That I think that has kind of served us the most well. Doing
Mhm.
internet campaigns and things like that usually don't reap a lot of fruit for us simply because people don't even know what a virtual power plant is, let alone
Exactly.
if they hear anything from people around them that's negative, even if it's just like 1 out of 10 things, they're going to go with that 1 out of 10 and say, I don't even want to try this.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I would say having a good reputation has allowed us to continue to propel us forward. But there's a lot of things that need to be addressed as far as dealing with shady people. And once we
Exactly.
get them out of the equation, I think that we can begin to rebuild that trust with the consumer.
Of course. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do here as well, right? Like, get people that are doing things ethically, that are building trust in the community, and that are, genuinely doing change the way it's meant to be done. And I think that's why you're a great guest on the podcast. And actually kind of relates to something I found on your site, which ties into trust as well. But you mentioned that people without rooftops or property can still participate.
Yeah.
Really think about that solar as, it's a big ticket item, or energy or a different form of energy is always big ticket.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you're designing this to be inclusive and what that actually looks like on the ground?
Well, sure. So, I mean, just to kind of scale it back for a second, one of the biggest issues, even with people that are willing to buy into solar, is there's just incredibly long wait times because the industry is understaffed. So right now, if I'm not mistaken, there's something like 53 gigawatts worth of projects that are not online simply because there's no one out there to service them. And then, once you talk about the actual installation process, they could easily last between 2 and 3 months or practically even longer. So I would say one of the most important things that helps us to mitigate that is using community solar programs. So being able to either access and tap into our existing assets, or using, as I said, the other subscribers to our program. So if you already have like solar on your roof, we would install a type of inverter that we've just invented. And it's called a virtual power plant inverter. So that enables us to do peer-to-peer energy sharing. So that kind of takes over and allows us to leverage tens of thousands of different types of properties where a typical energy provider like a fossil fuel plant, for instance, they would be the primary creators of that energy, the suppliers, and then everything goes through their delivery system. But instead, with a virtual power plant, we can, once again, going back to that tree reference, to draw energy from all of these other leaves on our system, if that makes sense.
Of course. I
But
think
then
that's a great
also,
analogy.
yeah, no, I've been working at it, so it's not perfect, but I guess it's something to work with. So yeah, that's kind of the benefit of having solar but not having solar with community solar.
That's fantastic. And I think another aspect of it is on the other side of the spectrum, right? Like how do you approach, government infrastructure, if that's even, something that's in the question? I imagine, public center integration adds a whole new level of impact. So
Yep.
not only just on the smaller scale, but like the more minuscule scale of like the residential, once we're getting to the bigger side of the government and, maybe even like utility applications,
hmm
what's that impact like and how do you guys manage it?
Yeah, so I would say creating a decentralized network is probably the smartest thing that the energy industry could do. Creating an aggregation of all of the different types of energy generation systems with battery storage, it creates a level of resiliency that enables us to kind of work with different municipalities and figure out like what is the biggest hurdles that they're trying to overcome. So it's not just simply reliant on our personal assets, because in order for us to scale, it would be nearly impossible
Hmm.
for us to tap into the 1,500 or so municipalities that exist in America, or in Illinois alone, I should say.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I would say decentralization has become like a big topic of extreme interest. And the more we can have more public discourse about it, the more it'll propagate itself.
That's amazing. And actually, in terms of the public, I think it's pretty interesting you brought it up because one thing I always ask entrepreneurs in energy is how are you getting word out? I mean, this is deeply technical. It's like how we mentioned, it's a very high trust industry. So what's been most effective for you, especially as a company that's not, I did a bit of research, but you're not necessarily relying heavily on mass advertising. So,
That's right. Yeah,
hey,
we don't do any type of mass advertising at all. Most of what we do, as I said, comes from just word of mouth. So because I do have a fairly large network and kind of friendship level with different decision makers within the governmental side, either on the state side or federal side, this enables us to create like a bigger trust base. As I had mentioned before, like being able to have a working relationship with the mayor of a city, they're going to tell their friends who are also mayors of cities, and that's how we've been able to scale. And then
that's
the same thing
fantastic.
applies because we have a number of different working relationships with other countries. So many other countries they have no idea what virtual power plants are, and it's very difficult to explain such an abstract topic to them. For instance, one of my best friends is the Consul General of Colombia. So he's able to articulate what we do because he's seen it in action. And that
Hmm.
enables us to expand rapidly into other markets.
That's amazing. And what about in terms of advice? If you had to give advice to someone that's maybe starting on a similar venture or thinking of inventing or, innovating a new product or a new way of thinking in the industry, what's something that you have done or more interestingly, what's something that, might have not worked out in the past that you found a solution to?
I would say, well, the energy industry it's such a large field. Like it's very difficult to provide any one small piece of useful information. But what I will say is to start looking into the future, one thing that we're going to need a lot of is battery storage.
Hmm.
So kind of planting your roots in what's called energy storage solutions or systems, it's almost certainly going to be a win for you, especially if you can figure out what the supply chain looks like. and to create really good working relationships there and to find manufacturers. But I would say branching off into anything decentralized is going to mostly be good because there's only 24 hours in a day, and you can only, as a
Exactly.
small business, do so much work per day. But being able to have an entire like ecosystem of people that you can rely upon, that allows any business that is rooted in those fundamentals to have a higher level of success or probability of success.
That's a very good answer, actually. I think that other than relationships, resources is also very important, especially when looking at
Yes.
the same conversations. Um, I think I remember seeing that you've done a lot with limited resources, and as a
Yes.
founder, how do you prioritize what features or, customer types to build for first?
Well, fortunately, because we've started 5 years ago, so we've been able to establish a pretty decent foothold. Working with limited resources, it sucks.
Of course.
But I would say having built really sturdy relationships with either manufacturers that will work for less money or working with different like municipalities that we do other types of services for. So this is even on the same topic. I'm not sure if you did any research on Lumina Energy Academy, but that's our workforce development program.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I mean, we created like a holistic model. So I think to kind of better understand your or to better elucidate on your question, it's better to just start from square one. So the way that we enter into a new market is typically by offering workforce development programming for people who are looking to either shift into a new job or to get into the trade field in general, coming straight out of college or not even wanting to get into that field at all. So what we
Mhm.
do is we train them at one of our offices. They become employees for us, and then that establishes faith within that community that they've come from to say, well, this organization, Lumina Energy, has provided 40, 50 jobs just from this small group of people, and we want to invest more in our community. So in doing so, that allows us to come to the table and say, well, we can put these people to work in your community to beautify it or to make it more resilient or even for sustainability development goals. Like all of these
Mm.
things are crucial. So then we actually establish like a what we call it a green plan, and then that green plan allows us to figure out exactly where are some of these pain points for them, how can we propagate some of our services, and what's more is how can we save them money and to increase their infrastructure almost tenfold or more. So that
Mm.
is basically the threefold system that we use to work with on limited resources. Then, not to mention, with our school, we of course receive a lot of federal funding from grant programs and things of that nature. So that enables us to operate on a much higher scale because we are completely bootstrapped, by the way. We've never taken any outside investment. So between the customers that we already have and the ones that go through our program, this kind of gives us enough operating capital to scale and to sustain ourselves.
It's amazing. I don't think I've ever actually heard of anyone having their own program before in order to, train people and actually get them, aware of the problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of want to step actually just before that. Where are these people sourced from? Are they
Sure.
already in school? Are they already or in college, sorry, in the States? Are they, doing good things? Are they volunteering? What's that process look like?
It's really interesting. We've established a lot of amazing relationships with nonprofit organizations. And so
Wow.
many nonprofits, they'll go after, well, they not go after, but they'll have different mission statements. So one, for instance, like one of our greatest partners, Lumity, they specifically work with like the black and brown community here to invest in STEM jobs. But then you'll also have organizations that not to name any names, but will work with like with returning citizens, people who have like a smudge on their record and are looking for a way out. So we will
Exactly.
have entire programs for that, which have like wraparound services and basically give them all of the tools that they need to succeed. And then I mean, just the list goes on and on. But you kind of get what I'm saying in terms
Of course.
of just working with people with very specific agendas, and that
Yes.
that enables us to do the greatest good.
That's amazing. That's great. I'd love to talk on that even later on, but
Sure.
I don't want to spend too much time on it for now. But I think this is also another interesting question because if we zoom out and if we check back in with Lumina Energy in 5 or 10 years, what's changed? What's the ideal version of the energy landscape that you're trying to help create? Because things are changing. It's hard
Yeah.
to kind of see into the future. But if you could, what would that look like for Lumina?
Yeah, so I briefly touched earlier on what we're doing with artificial intelligence. So much of what we do, even now, we use something called AIoT or artificial intelligence of things. And that enables us to create it helps us to create what's the term? An autonomous system. That's the word I'm looking for. So in being able to forecast out the needs for our municipal partners, that kind of does a lot of the heavy lifting for us. But in the very near future, and even starting literally yesterday, we just launched this massive internship program. So we've leveraged a lot of our relationships with different universities around the world to help us.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So we're building out one of the world's first artificial intelligence micro data center networks,
Hmm.
and that will help us to create like inference and other types of services available that we can then leverage that will kind of bridge that gap for us. So we would be able to power most of this through renewable energy. So
Hmm.
I didn't get a chance to mention this, but the micro data centers that we're creating are like shipping containers that have been modified. And so, I mean, if you aggregate these by a factor of 10 or 100, you're talking, you have incredible compute power that we can pull from. So 5 to 10 years from now, I really see Lumina Energy becoming one of the preeminent sources of virtual power plant technology because we both own our data and we own the infrastructure.
Hmm.
And that will kind of put us at this place where we can replicate anything that we're doing stateside anywhere in the world 24 hours a day. And then what's
That's
more,
fantastic.
yeah, so even like with the artificial intelligence side, being able to create products that specifically help our municipal partners deal with other inherent issues that they're facing. Many areas here in the States are beginning to start working on creating their own smart cities. Energy is the cornerstone of any smart city. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. But then
Mhm.
being able to tap into very specific core branding aspects of whatever it is that they need, that puts us in a place where we can create like turnkey solutions for literally anyone.
That's amazing. I think that's where everyone eventually wants to get, right? So everything is in-house. Everything is something that I don't want to say control is the right word, but have access over and be able to oversee, I think is the best way. So in terms of safety and in terms of actually making sure that everything is working properly, I think
Exactly.
that's the proper and the best way to approach it. So
Hmm.
I mean, I guess back to that, the ethics and the honesty and trust conversation.
Yes,
I think you guys are making the greatest moves in the right direction.
we're certainly
I think
trying.
there's a sorry.
I say we're certainly trying.
Well, that's all you can really do is try. So well, then I guess you guys are doing. I think that's the best way to say it. But no, I think that's great. And just to kind of wrap up here, I think this has been a fantastic conversation. For anyone who wants to learn more, where should they go?
Well, if they want to learn more about Lumina, I mean, obviously luminaenergy.com. We have our new website launching for our data center, which we're calling Diode. So that will launch, I believe, next month. So
Amazing.
that you can reach that at DAIODE.ai, spelled diode. And then
Perfect.
if you want to learn more about me, I try to update this as much as possible, but I am very busy. So if you go to davidnjones.com, I believe I'm the number one search from SEO. So you can learn more about the stuff that I'm engaging in.
Amazing. There'll be links in the description for all of that and for all of you listening as well. And just the last quick note to our listeners, this is one of several episodes we're dropping as we launch our first wave of Off the Grid on the Record. Keep an eye out for more conversations like this because they will be going live later next week and you do not want to miss them. We've got a lot of great conversations with amazing owners and innovators just like David here. So thanks for tuning in. And until next time, stay connected, stay off the grid, and on the record. Take care, everybody. Perfect.